Welcome to Girlfriends Pray. We are a prayer ministry for women where our mission is to draw more women closer to God through prayer. We would like to welcome you to our series on mental wellness. In this series, we are focused on the elements of prevention, intervention, and support. Within the African American community, there is the belief that no matter how great the burden, prayer is the answer. While we as women of faith know and understand the power in prayer, we also know that God gives wisdom to trained mental health professionals to support us through difficulties. The purpose of this series is to educate our sisters on the importance of maintaining mental wellness as well as open the conversation around treatment. We hope you enjoy the series and that you will share it with someone.
Amen, 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 amen. Thank you, gorgeous, greatness, beautiful. Thank you so much for covering us, Reverend, and we just so appreciate you going before the throne. I'll tell you the part when you said, and strengthen our legs, I almost fell out. I said, thank you, Jesus. And so we thank God for you, and we ask that God restore you for all that you have poured out on our behalf to go before the throne. So we so appreciate you. Thank you. This is Girlfriends Pray, prayer ministry for women. If you just join the line, we have been covered, and we do this Monday and Friday. This is our prayer, but now we're going to, just as a matter of responsibility, it is the month of January, and in January, we know that there is the presenting for a lot of things, whether you are suffering from the holiday blues, maybe it is that you are managing a heavy load, or maybe it is you're grieving loss. But we are going to shift gears in just a few minutes and go into our, we call this group therapy, Girlfriends Pray Real Talk. And it really is just a Q&A. We're going to bring in our expert for today, a licensed clinical social worker who has been years in this industry, or in the industry and in the business of helping people, women, and now she's attached to girls, college girls, Dean Tomiko Jenkins. We're going to have her come in just a minute, and we're going to have a conversation and a Q&A. We're going to open up the lines and answer your question. If you, now that we have prayed, now that prayer is complete, and we hand everything over to God, there is the very real conversation that has to be had about we are praying, and as a matter of responsibility, we are seeking help when we need it. So whatever it is, we are seeking help. We know that it's God, and God equipped and empowered and anointed people in this space, in therapy and psychology and psychiatry. God equipped other people to help us to sort through any of our life challenges. And so whatever challenges you are experiencing right now that may be in this space of feeling not yourself, how about that? Not feeling yourself, maybe feeling heavy and you can put your finger on it, or maybe you're feeling heavy because you can't put your finger on it. We're going to have this conversation. So invite your friends right now. Invite a colleague, love. Put the phone on speaker if you're at home and you know the people in your household need this. It could be that you are well, you are healthy and well, but maybe you notice that it's either your partner, your parent, your sister, your daughter, your nephew, your brother is having a hard time in this season. And that is why we are here. The intention is for us to learn, ask questions, and then we will move on from this call. So we're going to bring in Tomiko. Tomiko, if you are here. come on
Hey,
in.
good morning. Happy Friday,
Hey there,
Dee.
gorgeous. Happy
Hey
Friday
there.
to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, yes, we are so excited that you could make time. You know, I knew this was a challenging time, a risky time. I know all of our therapists who we've had on the line, I know, have full-time responsibilities. So, Tomiko, I so appreciate you being here today. Dean?
Well, you know what,
yeah.
Dee? It's always going to be yes and always. Just really quick, if you don't mind, I'd love to just tell a really quick story using myself as a case study because Girlfriends Pray, I really healed here through prayer and being able to serve God. I went through an incredibly dark season, and it was really through being able. One time on a call you said, pray and go to therapy, pray on the way to the hospital. And that really spoke to me volumes, and I was able to get out of my bed and get to where I needed to be in terms of making an appointment with a therapist, getting on calls regularly here with Girlfriends Pray and serving. And so using myself as a case study, I walk it like I talk it, as the women at my college say, that I get to work every day with. But it's real. Life is life, and things come up, and so you really need to have these practical tools. So thank you for pausing and doing this so that folks can get their answers to their questions and get, informed.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I'm so glad that you shared that, and because I know so many people would identify with that, and it needed to come from you in the therapy space and doing this work, that you stayed prayerful in a dark season. Well, first, that everybody has, or it's not unusual to have a dark season or a dark day, a dark moment. And that you stayed prayerful, and then it also made sense that you pray en route to getting help. So thank you, my friend. I so adore you. My mom was so excited that you were coming today. She said this last week. She said, Tomiko, I'm so excited. Yes.
You know how
but
much I love your mom.
Yes. So here's what we've been doing. I know you know this, but ladies, can you get ready with your questions? So, Tomiko, this is, I think, you're one of four. This is the third session that we've had, and we've been talking about, and I will say that this was triggered by Twitch, the suicide, a very public suicide last year, the end of last year, and it was because seemingly a man who was dancing and smiling and happily married on one day and literally dancing online, and then the next day drove himself and checked into a hotel and committed suicide. So what I did at that time, I knew it would be, we were already in a season that was heavy because it was a few days before Christmas. I knew there are a lot of people who struggle if they are without their loves. I know a lot of women, we've heard it here on the line, in December, they say, I really just want to go to sleep and wake up in January. And we've even had it here, Davida, this last Friday, she went to a funeral of a young cousin who committed suicide. And so we're seeing it more. We've talked about that. But I also want to talk about, you really help us sort through things like overwhelm, anxiety and things like that. So I want to just start with, though, the basics of the season that we're in, where the thing that is the biggest is it's January, and there is a real thing about the holiday or the blues. I think they call things like Blue Monday, meaning the time after the holiday. And then we're in this window of what some of us know as seasonal affective disorder, depression during a season. So can we just start with give us some insight as to January and what happens and what's typically presenting for women and for people in the space of depression and or anxiety or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. The one thing I want to say at the top as we begin to dive in here is to make an ask for folks to write down 988, which is the National Suicide Crisis Line. You just dial 988 for yourself or for someone else. The conversation that we're going to have is a message of hope in that depression, anxiety, having suicidal thoughts, all of it is treatable. There is intervention. There is life at the other side of how you're feeling or how your loved one or friend may be feeling. And so we just really want to make sure that folks have something at the ready in case they are triggered by the conversation, or if they immediately know this sounds like me, I need help, you're going to dial 988. Just as you dialed into this prayer line this morning, you'll hang up and dial 9888. So, Dee, one of the things, that I really like to set the stage with is that folks understand that there's a biology to depression, anxiety, that some folks are genetically predisposed, right, chemically, for having an imbalance. And so when that imbalance meets situation, I got a divorce at this time of the year, I lost my grandma and it was right at New Year's, or I got in a car accident, I lost my job, whatever the situation is or whatever the environmental stressor is, that combined with your biology, that chemical imbalance, really can lead folks to find themselves feeling these symptoms of depression, anxiety. Perhaps you've heard, you have someone in your life or yourself have been diagnosed with being bipolar, which would be that extreme high and low. And so I share that to say that 1 in 5, right? We understand that the statistic is 1 in 5. And so if we're on a prayer call and there's 20 of us in here, right, we easily know that they're going to be 1 in 5 is like what, 5? 5 goes into 20 4 times. So, right? So you're not alone. It is very common to have these experiences, to biologically be made up with a chemistry that is in need of intervention. And so in these conversations, I'm hoping to really normalize and destigmatize these conversations because of how normal this is. I mean, this is my day-to-day. I shared at the top of the call my own personal experiences. And so there's a real necessity to understand that you're not alone and there is help that is available. So this time of the year when you're watching these commercials and you're listening to everybody on social media talk about, new year, new me, they're in the gym, they're excited to kind of get this freshness going. And you're looking around and you're thinking, I feel incredibly heavy. This feels dark for me. I'm not in this kind of zone of new year, new me. What's going on? What's wrong, right? You'll start feeling sort of this shame, sometimes even guilt, particularly for folks that maybe have high-functioning depression where you got the job, you got the marriage, you got the kids, or whatever it is, but you still feel this blue or this darkness. And so the key is to recognize that, yes, your functioning has been impacted or there is an impairment there, but there's nothing wrong with you, like who you are as a person. You just need to get treated, and that would be much like, for my ladies on the call, all of us that have gotten a UTI, or if you've ever been treated for, anything else, a kidney infection, or you go to the doctor and you get what you need to get, right, so that you can treat those symptoms and then begin to function with more relief. And, so we want to be able to have that mental health conversation be parallel to that of a physical health impairment, because it is the same. Your body is your body. And I really like to treat this in a mind, body, spirit capacity, right, when we start looking at resources and how do we get to the other side of things. It's treating mind, body, and spirit.
Wow, thank you so much. Appreciate the nuance of the predisposition combined with the trigger. And I really like teasing out also not just grief and loss, but, other things that can trigger where we might be predisposed. So I appreciate you. Okay, so now that you gave us that very thorough bit of insight, and I want to go into then the biggest or one of the things that we want to take away, we want to know how to identify the symptoms and signs of what within ourselves and within other people. So that's always a big question: symptoms and signs within ourselves and other people, family members, friends. And then the second question is only going to be, then what do we do? How do we handle? What's a best practice? What's a worst practice? And then once we do that, then we want to open up for questions for folks who have questions here. I will invite everybody on the line to get a pen and paper and to write down, take notes, so that when we get to, the end of the call, we can make sure that questions that you're asking hasn't been something that maybe Tomiko has already shared with us. So if you could do that, that would be wonderful. And we'll be here for a few more minutes until the top of the hour. So please invite folks, your friends, family, colleagues, coworkers. Put the phone on speaker for your honey, your hubby, your kiddies. If you have kids in college, invite them. Just send it to them. You don't know, they might plug in. So Tomiko, can you take us to those next two questions: signs, symptoms, and then best practices, worst practices for how do we deal, how do we manage, how do we help?
Absolutely. And so I want to point out that it's rarely never one thing in isolation, right, when we're talking about signs and symptoms. When you hear me start talking about how we clinically diagnose someone with depression, it's not that you have been unable to sleep or you're sleeping too much alone, right, that makes you depressed. It's the issues with your sleep patterns combined oftentimes with appetite changes, your concentration and focus are off, your energy level is either, way low or too high, just a feeling of helplessness, hopelessness, not feeling worthy. It's that full picture that we're looking for when we diagnose clinical depression. I'm going to ask you, how long has this been happening? And I want to know, how many times a day or how many times a week, right? What's the duration? What's the frequency of that full picture? I think that in common, popular culture, we use these clinical terms very loosely when it's not a clinical matter, right? Like the weather is bipolar, or, if someone is acting differently, we might say, oh, they're acting, bipolar, so these are very clinical terms that, I want to make sure that we understand what the definitions are and that it is a medical diagnosis and that you have to go and see someone licensed to perform an assessment and a screening so that they can get a clinical picture of how long this has been happening, what's the frequency, and what the intensity of your symptoms are. And they'll look at what your baseline is, right? So for me, someone might ask me, well, what did it look like, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, as opposed to what do I look like today? Because everyone's baseline is different. Dee, because I've known you for some time, I understand sort of your energy level, right? I know your presentation. And so suddenly if I notice this shift in your energy, dials back for over 2 weeks every day, right? Then you can, you have to know someone's baseline. And so that's why the therapist, the psychologist, the psychiatrist is important, because they're going to have these touch points and be able to assess you over, a period of time by taking a history and then getting a current snapshot. And so, I am a holistic practitioner. I really like to set my clients up and people that I work with for success by looking at practical tools that really hit the different spheres of wellness. I don't believe in just taking the medication to, help balance out your chemistry. I will look at, do you need a medication, and can we go to a restorative yoga class? And also, where's your fellowship? Where do you worship? Where do you go and have brunch? Who are you walking with? And so we want a treatment plan that really hits on those those high 3 key spheres so that you don't have healing in isolation like that. I think you really need a multi-pronged approach because it's rarely one tool that gets you out of the ditch. You need to have a hammer, a screwdriver, a flashlight, all these different options, because sometimes music worked for me today, but I put that same music on and it didn't hit the same. So I need to be able to know which girlfriend to call. I need my therapist appointment. Where's my Zoloft? And I'm going to step or get on my Peloton later, right? So just having all those different options.
Oh, that's so good. The holistic approach. Multi-pronged. That's what you said, multi-pronged. See, if I would have had my pen and paper, I could write that down. Somebody, one of the OGs gave us feedback, and they said, can you tell everybody to have a paper and pen?
There you go. There you
multi-pronged. And here, okay, so, and you know what I also appreciate about what you just gave us is, you said in the commercial space or in the public domain, we use very clinical terms, and you didn't say it, but I got the sense that, and that's inappropriate for us to use those terms to say the weather is schizophrenic or bipolar and stuff like that when we use those terms, but just saying that it's a very real thing. And so, and okay. So that is helpful. Let's see. Were you going to share anything else in terms of signs, symptoms? We get that. We get well, actually, you did cover it. And so I'm going to, I think, begin to open the line so we have, we can get some questions here. But that was really, really helpful. And particularly at the part about the multi-pronged approach, but not just the therapist. Some might be medication might be helpful, but it's also those other lifestyle, like a healthy lifestyle. I'm big on lifestyle. Quality of life has been my thing, and I know you know this, Tomiko. And some of you here, I am. One of my top 5 values is a quality life, meaningful and purposeful life, but also a quality life. So I do have a success routine in the morning. I have a lot of structure, more so in the morning, because that's when I can have the most control over my day. I have really great boundaries in the morning, but that really it has helped me to, I think, guard and protect, the other side, or what could happen when you don't have that, whether it's overwhelm and stress and anxiety, and then, just all kinds of other things. So that was really helpful just to know, and for it to be reinforced that, having structure. I'll tell you this. I've read and know that things like clutter and overwhelm lead to or impact, and correct me if I'm wrong, things like depression. So I'm a minimalist. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, that's really powerful. It's true, that connection. One of the things as a practitioner that I've been able to do is therapy in the home setting. So I'll go to someone's, home and provide services. And you walk in the door and you can just see the physical manifestation of what's going on internally with a person. And so what I've often said to folks, what can be, I think, kind of clumsy or clunky about mental health illness is you don't have the motivation, the desire to kind of get up and clean the house, get out the bed, to go to the gym, or, get the fresh air, take a walk. And so this is why I cannot stress enough. You don't have to have a whole crew and clique of friends or family that you have around you. You need just one person that will key in your door or knock and get that door open, flick that light on, shades up and get you up, and put some dishes in a dishwasher and help you get on track. Because when it's heavy and it's dark and you can't get up, it's the power of connection and having relationship with people that can sometimes really help get you on track. And so I do want to also lift up, before we start taking questions, sort of the mind-body relationship of what we call like psychosomatic. folks will come in and they're having headaches and stomach aches and just gut issues and not really realizing the connection of your mental health, anxiety, and depression with that headache. And your upset stomach may be anxiety, right? And so how important it is to have a primary care provider that also understands mental health, that when you're coming in and I've had chronic headaches, can say, okay, tell me a little bit about how you're doing emotionally, and can start unpacking that for you, because there is a connection between your mind and your body in that way. And your environment, clutter, absolutely the physical manifestation oftentimes of the stress and overwhelm folks are feeling.
Yeah, yep. Okay. Nope, that's good. Look, and I think it's, and, I thank you for giving us permission to, have one friend who we deputize. I always call it, deputize. I'm always deputizing somebody to keep me in order, typically when it's around a project or work or a service.
Yes.
Because some people know my heart, know my intention. I mean well, but sometimes, because I just show up in the way that I do, I always want to be sensitive. And so I always deputize somebody. So I like this idea of one person to put the key in the door and help. Let's get it started in here. Okay. Like, yeah,
That's
let's enter. Yeah. So I like that. And you know what? I also feel like this is a place of a sidebar conversation with everybody here, that you could take it to one friend or friend circle. Like, I'm going to have a debrief with my girlfriend circle, and we already kind of have this. Like, we could go put the key in the door, or get on a video, not a call, but a video. Let me see you, because I want to see if you showered today. Like, I want to see what you look like. I want to see your face. I can tell if your face is swollen and if you're crying and stuff like that. So I love, thank you for giving us that, and for, confirming things like, again, how we live our lifestyle can complicate, can add, increase the anxiety or trigger or just overwhelm that then leads to other things. And then the opposite. I think some people don't. I think a lot of us have never been educated on the importance of having or managing just our home life, our home space, whether you have a little or whether you have a lot. Also, I'm going to tell you, I am addicted to this one medication that I have to take now in the morning, because the way it makes me feel. It's like a drug, because the way that it makes my body feel first thing in the morning versus when I don't take it. Do you know what that is, Tomiko? It is the gym.
Yeah, I was going to say the Peloton, right.
It is not. You knew where I was going with it. It is. I no longer attach my losing weight. I am not any longer eating or working out to lose weight and look good. I have measured, I have assessed, I know the way that my body walks differently, feels differently, moves differently, my energy and my focus. If I have 10 minutes of cardio, just 10 minutes, even if I don't have time, who doesn't have 10 minutes? And so I'm forever committed for the latter of my life, as long that God allows me the ability. I get on. I thank God that when I put one foot down, I say thank, and the left foot down, you, and thank and you, because I know so many people don't have it. So, again, I only bring that in because and I'm told that helps. That's part of the treatment. The one pharmaceutical, the one drug that you can take that doesn't cost you anything is move your body.
Move your body. Move your body.
Yeah.
And, when you think about sort of sensory experiences, most of us have access to 5, or some of us 4, 3, whatever senses you have access to, sight, hearing, smell, touch, and I'm forgetting one. You want to have – it is. Okay, hearing. You want to just look at your coping plan, your wellness plan through the sense of your 5 senses. That's why I really love walking or running, whatever, your choice. and it's free, and you get out there and you get fresh air, sunlight. There's the sound of the wind, right? You can put your hands in soil, ground your feet on the earth, but however you can bring in these sensory experiences. Some people like to cook, and that's their thing. You get smell, and you get to, move in that way. But you need to have at ready your go-to and set it up now. When you're in a crisis, it's hard. You have constricted thinking. It's hard to think solution focus. It's hard to problem solve. So you want to have your routine, your schedule in place now, so that when your season hits, because life is going to life, things are going to happen. We already know that. You want to have your go-tos. I know what my go-tos are. I'm very clear about my connection with music. I'm very clear about how I have to be connected. I need to be able to have a chit-chat. Hey, girl. Hey, and have those check-in points. And so have that plan in place in advance so that when you're going through, your scriptures, your sermon, that one sermon you hit, and it hits every time, you can hit it on replay. But have your tools in place so that, when you're going through, you're not scrambling and you can't, think of solutions.
Awesome. Let's open up for questions. This is so good. So listen, here's how the questions work. I'm going to just ask for volunteers. You don't have to share your name if you just want to not be known here, that's fine. But you can ask a question. We're talking about, and by the way, if you came on late, we are here with Tomiko Jenkins. She is an educated LCSW practitioner. She does this work. She's our resident therapist for today. This is 3 of 4 therapists who we've had to come on and to answer our questions so that after we pray, we know we can then create a plan, or we can get help, or at least be a resource for a family member, a friend. And so we're talking about anxiety, overwhelm, depression, triggers, and all that good stuff. So come on in, and who has a question here? State your first name or make up a name. First name? If it's *6 right now, you can come in. *6.
Okay. Hi, this is Blanca. Can you hear me?
Okay, Blanca. Yep, Blanca, you'll be number 1. Who else has a question? Any other questions? If you could come in and give me your name. Any other questions here on the line?
Vera.
Vera, you will be number 2. Any other questions on the line? We'll take maybe a third. If you have a question, just tell us your name or make up a name. Give us an alias. Do we have a question? And you can *6 to come in. We have number 1 is going to be, we have number 1, number 2. Number 1 is going to be Blanca, number 2, Vera. Any other questions today for our resident therapist? I think I hear somebody coming in. Linda, Linda, you're going to be number 3. Did I hear somebody else coming in? Okay. We're going to go with 3 questions, and we'll be complete for today. So if you have a question, and because we have about 12 minutes, we're going to go with number 1, and then we'll make sure we're going to leave time for 2 and 3. So number 1, Blanca, you want to ask your question to Tomiko? Okay, we'll come back to Blanca. You want to go, Vera, number 2? And we'll come back to you, number 1. Number 2? Oh, did we lose everybody? Okay, so hang on. We may have, so command control, can you allow for, oh my goodness, how will you know, number 1, 2, and 3 to come in? Number 3, are you able to come in?
Okay, it's Vera. I'm number 2.
Okay, go ahead. So Vera will get you, and then we'll come back to 1 and 3. Go ahead, Vera.
Okay, and I just hit star 6 again. And so my question concerns, excuse me, the seasonal affective disorder, which is real with me. And thank you so much for the suggestions that you shared. Any suggestions that you have found that are very helpful to a lot of people? Because I just know I deal with that, and I know other people who do.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorites for seasonal affective disorder is what we call phototherapy, light therapy. They have these light boxes that you can get either prescribed or over the counter. You do a quick assessment to determine sort of your circadian rhythm, which is really like your internal clock around sleep and waking time, and it prescribes you a certain amount of light that you need throughout the day that just really helps, with the symptoms of seasonal affective disorder, because really it's connected to sort of like the changes in sunlight and access to that. The other thing I would offer, of course, is talk therapy, being able to connect with a therapist that would be able to help you with a treatment plan of other coping mechanisms. And then for some people, you may have to consider medication. And I know when we bring up medication, some people really are not pro that, but think low dose, non-addicting, medication has come a long way from what it's been, those stories you see on TV and the person's addicted and they can't go without, it's not that. That's not the scene anymore with prescribed medications, particularly when we're looking at something to treat seasonal affective disorder. And then, you could also work with someone that's more naturopath. There are, lots of natural options that folks lean on, St. John's wort and that sort of thing. But you'll want to work with a provider who has the expertise to know dosing and, any counter actions that you may have with any additional medications that you're taking.
Thank you so much, Tomiko. Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right. Awesome. Oh, I love that you gave naturopath, and I love the reference to the light therapy and the very specifics for that. So that is so good. So we're going to ask you to go back on mute if you can, Vera, and then we're going to go back to number 1. Blanca, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. And then everybody else can go on mute. Okay, so your question for Tomiko.
All right, so there were a lot of factors that led me to get into a state of depression. I used it more like an escape route. So when I became overwhelmed by being a single mother, by work, by many, many, many things, I started negative self-talk. How stupid, why did you do that, this and that? And eventually I would end up in a state of depression. And once I was in it, I was immobilized. I had to take time off from work and all this stuff. And the thought of suicide crossed my mind. I never let myself sit in it because I would think about my son and my grandchildren and the people that love me. And those were deterrents for me. And I would think about God and the sadness that I would cause God and possibly losing my salvation. So my question and my point is this. Is it practical, is it safe to have a conversation with your loved ones, with your girlfriend circles, and ask the question, have you ever considered suicide? Secondly, what led you there? And third, would you be willing to sign a commitment among ourselves that if you ever get to that place, you will call one of us, you will reach out? Is that practical and is it safe?
Thank you so much for this question. There are lots of training modalities for people that are not clinicians or practitioners to help loved ones, people in their community. There's mental health first aid, and there's another one called QPR, which is the mental health version of CPR. And what you're speaking to reminds me of mental health first aid and QPR in that the first step in both of those modalities is to ask the question. And I find that people get shy or afraid to ask someone, are you thinking about killing yourself? Are you having thoughts of ending your life? because, A, they don't want to know what's on the other end of that answer because they're not going to know what to do, right? And you start thinking, the fear of, okay, and what if they act on it and that sort of thing. And so as a person that's not trained as a clinician, asking the question is very powerful because sort of that next step or steps are to persuade them to get the help that they need and having the proper referrals, which are the P and the R of QPR. So the answer to your question is yes, absolutely. You want to ask the question because most people that are thinking about ending their lives really just want the problem to end or the crisis to end. And the only solution that they can think of is to end their life because they can't think of how to get themselves out of whatever is happening. So if you can ask them the question and they tell you yes, you can get them connected to the right resource that could help them problem solve or think through whatever that crisis is. So we need more people acutely aware of the power of just asking the question and then having the ability to know, okay, we're going to dial 988 together right now because that's going to get us with a counselor on the other end that we can talk to get us help or, whatever those next steps are. I think having an agreement amongst a group of people or family or friends, I think is really important, just to say, hey, I want to be your person. Can we be each other's community, each other's fellowship? I've got your back. Can you have mine? That if I am feeling this hopelessness, helplessness, that I can come to you and you can help me get to help because that's really what it's about. It's a very powerful, I think, process to sit with someone who is in a dark place and to help them get connected to the resources needed to help them. I hope I've answered your question.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yes, you have. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Awesome.
And what you named. I was just going to say, Dee, when she mentioned her son and wanting to continue to live because I need to be here for my child. For some people, it's a pet. I have a bunny, Reese. I have children. Mm-hmm. Those are what we call protective factors. And as a clinician, I'm listening to hear what are your protective factors? What is it that's going to motivate you to keep going? And we want to lift those things up. And you'll be surprised, people, their cat. I can't leave my cat alone. Okay, good. What because that will help me, keep you safe.
Got it. Awesome. Let's go to question number 3. As we're coming to the top of the hour, I want to be mindful of your time, Tomiko, and everybody else is here. So question number 3, you have the floor. What's your question? And if you *6, you can come back in.
Can you hear me
6.
now?
I can. Go right ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for this forum. I've really been enjoying them. My question has to do with children. And as a parent of adult children, my son is 20 years old. And sometimes I can see the spiral. And I've asked him because he played football in high school and then he didn't get the offers that he wanted in college, so he decided not to play football in college. So I see this kind of cycle, like a kind of this withdrawal kind of thing. I don't see it as much now, so maybe he's kind of adjusted to college. But, as a parent, and you say to them, do you need to talk to somebody? Can I help you talk through? Because I know it's a process. You've been playing football since you were 4. So as a parent, how do you help your children to navigate, especially when they don't think they need, outside help? What are some things that parents can do to help to support them?
Mm-hmm. That's a very powerful question. I want to lift up this identity piece that I think I hear you describing. What does it mean to be a student athlete and have that identity be challenged or shaken up when you don't continue that identity forward into young adulthood, right? The football player since 4 goes to college and he's no longer playing. There's a huge piece of the identity that's been shaken up. And so for that, I would say, I love college settings because they have access to free counseling services in a counseling center, right? So if you have the ability to try to encourage them to get over to the counseling center, they have groups, they have things that don't feel as clinical, like really cool options for college students to get plugged into. But if that is something that, your college student isn't going to necessarily go for him, I would want someone that has like this specialty in working with student athletes, someone in like sports medicine, sports psychology, because they're going to understand the nuances of that identity. As someone that's worked in a college center counseling program, I always work with athletes to try to continue pieces of the identity that they can continue, right? So you want to keep that workout regimen. Your chemistry and everything is really connected to this cycle of working out, the serotonin, the endorphins. And when you stop the workout plan that you've been doing as an athlete, you can really send yourself into like this spiral. So if you can continue a workout plan, get connected to like recreational kind of sports. So if he's not on the team, most colleges have some sort of like sports and rec program where they're still playing football for fun, which is a different mindset, I know, but at least you get that same connection with the team. You're on a team, there's a coach, those same kind of familiar factors that you're accustomed to when you're an athlete. And the main thing I would say are those things, those pieces, but highlighting sort of someone that's trained in sports psychology that can really help him unpack the grief. He's grieving that identity shift, and so he would need support in that way.
Awesome. Thank you, Tomiko. Thank you so much. I think the Q&A, the questions are so good because then you get to answer very specifically to the challenge. So and we get to hear your genius even more so. So we thank you so much for this. So we are at the top of the hour, so we are complete here. The time went really fast, but, this was extremely valuable. If you're on the bat line and this was helpful for you and you were able to get value from today's Q&A, if you were here for prayer, great. Girlfriends Pray. Prayer early this morning at 7, but then able to stay with us for this group therapy. Then certainly let us know. And you can also let us know on Facebook on the Girlfriends Pray page if you were able to just get one thing. I always like to say one thing, if you could take away one thing. So, Tomiko, thank you for giving us of your time. I know you are a busy wife, mom, dean. You've got your own your girls over there, so we're not going to keep you, but I just want to thank you so much and leave you with the final word. And the final word, if you want to tell people where you are, where they can find you, if you're taking any private practice, if you're available, or where they might follow you, whatever it is that you want to share with everybody here today, please share, again, who you are, where you are, and how they connect if in fact that is an opportunity. And you know what? I do want to say this. When the one we were talking about the you know what? I'll share it in the next one, and that is we had a therapist here who did that mental first aid or whatever that was, and she's really good at it. She really, there is a certification process. So when I heard that, it's Reverend Sharon White. She is trained in that. She's a big champion of it, but it is like a training and certification that you go to so that you know how to respond to that and be responsible. So, but that said, Tomiko, you have the floor. Any last words to tie this up?
Yes, I want to share. I got a question on the back channel that really just says, hey, I'm doing everything. I'm on medication. I've got a community. I'm working out, and my symptoms aren't improving. The one thing I'll say about that, Dee, is your needs your level of care have to meet your needs. And so going to therapy once a week may not be exactly what you need. They have intensive outpatient programs. that have partial hospitalization programs, as well as actually going into the hospital or going to some sort of rehabilitation institution. Institution is sterile. They have retreats, right, that you can go to. And so you really want to have the level of care that you need to treat the symptoms. It's much like if I had a heart attack and I need to go in the hospital to have heart surgery, then I'm admitted and I go, right? And so once a week may not be what you need with a therapist. You might need more. So that's the answer that I would offer to that question. I am in Atlanta, Georgia. I do have like a boutique private practice on a format. It's called Headway. And so you would just go to Headway, and you can find me there. I'm only accepting virtual appointments at this time, and clients do need to be in Georgia for insurance purposes. But I accept all insurances or private pay. You can follow me on Instagram. My handle is @Dean_Tomiko, Tomiko, and DM me if you want to get connected, if you can't find me on Headway. And I'd be happy to help support anyone here. This has been great. Thank you so much for having me, Dee.
Oh, thank you. And Headway, is it headway.com or headway.org? Is that a resource that lists therapists or practitioners?
Yes.
Or because we don't know Headway.
Yes, it is. Headway is sort of like your BetterHelp or some of those other chains that you can find therapists online. So it's headway.com.
Got it. Awesome. Well, there it is. Tomiko Jenkins. Thank you so much, Dean Tomiko. Have a wonderful day, everybody. This is Girlfriends Pray. We are complete. To learn more about Girlfriends Pray, you can go to www.girlfriendspray.org. If you came in towards the end of this, download the Girlfriends Pray podcast. We do record, and you can find prayer there, as well as, I believe, our team has the therapy session series to run there as well. So, and we will be back here on Monday for prayer, but next Friday for therapy. So it's our last person in the series. We've had Reverend Sharon White. We've had Dr. Angela Clack, Tomiko Jenkins today, and then next week Teresa Silva. And so we look forward to seeing you back here on Monday. And again, it's girlfriendspray.org. To learn more. My name is D.C. Marshall, and remember 1 Thessalonians 5:17. It says to pray without ceasing and pray on the way to therapy. God bless y'all. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.